Hey, this is Skullgirdle, and welcome to Obscura Undead Subculture Shock. This week we are talking to Pilgrims of Yearning about being South American in the US. In other words, being from a Latin American country with an accent while also being in the US. And I don't know if anyone knows this, but we're having a little bit of, I don't know, social unrest here. So first we'll introduce ourselves. I am Michelle. I have a skull girdle is my YouTube channel, and my pronouns are she or her. Azzy.
I am Azzy. I don't know. I'm with Obscure Undead. I do things with Obscure Undead. And my pronouns are they, them. Oh, I DJ. That's a thing I do.
Yeah, DJ founded Obscura Undead and DJ,
Yes.
and also I believe there's an instrument behind you, so you might be in some band or something.
Maybe. Not
We're not going to talk about that, I guess.
going to talk about that until the EP comes out.
And our special guest, Pilgrims of Yearning.
Yep. Hi, this is Claudio. I play the guitar. I do some music on Pilgrims of Yearning, and my pronouns is he.
I'm Jules. I do the vocals and lyrics in Pilgrims of Yearning. My pronouns, for now at least, are she, her.
One day, I would like to see us have like 10 pronouns so you can kind of get more exact. We're in the early stages of that. We'll get there. But it's something that we do because we figure if we start practicing that kind of inclusivity, then maybe one or two people who watch will practice that, and it'll just kind of, I don't know, like water droplets pool out. So
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right. So you guys have been in the US for 3 years, 2 years? It's been a while.
More actually, it's more than 5 now.
Oh, is it 5? Okay, I hadn't realized it was quite that long. Obviously, your command of the English language is excellent. So you speak very, very good English. And when somebody speaks to you in English, you understand them. So what kind of reactions do you get from just whatever regular people and when you go out and about because you have an accent and your skin is more of a honey color?
You go.
Well, I'm from Latin America, but at the same time, I'm white. So, like, I can pass on the street. Like, nobody will give me like a second look. So that's a huge privilege that I have here. But I realized that as soon as I out myself as Latine, then then it becomes like it's like you immediately like switch down of category or so. It's funny. Like I don't know. I've been in the street walking, and Claudio calls, for instance, and I start talking on the phone with him, and people will stare at me in the street for speaking Spanish, and it's like. Hey, like in Latin America, it's not a race, it's an ethnicity. So we come in all colors and shapes and everything. So but people are so surprised because they have like a clear stereotype of what a Latina is, right? So, but yeah, I mean, my accent since I look white again, people at the beginning, they don't realize that I'm from Latin America. So they try to guess. I've been told, I don't know, I'm Russian or whatever. I don't know. It's super weird.
Americans guess Russian for every accent they can't quite figure out.
Exactly.
Seriously, Russian, everything's Russian. You could be speaking a click language and they would call it Russian because they just are like, oh, you must be Russian. Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. Like but like for people, my accent is kind of cute, which is kind of weird because I that's not how I picture myself as being like a cute person, so it's kind of weird. But like other than kind of infantilizing me at some point because of my accent, it's things like that, you know. But as long as I don't identify myself as Latina, is kind of secondary, you know. It's different. You are exposed as Latina, then the dynamic changes. So again, like for me, it's like my like that I look white, I get more of that
Right.
past,
Right.
you know. I don't know, for Claudio is must be different. I don't know how it's for you.
Yeah, I mean, for me it's different because I mean, since I mean when you are brown or you have a different skin, I mean from the
Mhm.
you know, since you are born, things are different, and that's true even in Chile and in Colombia. You know, we have racisms there, and white people is the rich people, and brown and black people are the poor people. So, and there is always this, you know, different classes and correlated to the race, right? And even in South America, so that's why I mean, even there, you feel a little discriminated always, right? And not a little, let's say not a little, because I mean, in the not, let's say in the jobs, right? I mean, the white people always get the best positions, and in general, this is, let's say, in very general, right?
Right. Right. No, no, that's pretty much
Yeah,
proven
yeah.
over
And
and
for
over
instance,
and
yeah.
over again.
So of course, I mean, when you then we moved to the US, and yeah, I'm brown, and things, let's say, luckily here in Boston, they are not as different, right, compared to Latin America. I mean, it depends. Of course, it depends on the person. It depends on the situation, right? I mean, I work in the travel industry, so the travel industry is very diverse. Very, you know, they accept different cultures, different races. So to me, it hasn't been that hard. I have had some specific situations, right, on the street, but let's say, I mean, I'm kind of used to it. You know, it's
Right. So you
again.
don't notice it unless it's bad.
I mean, you are used to notice when it happens, right? It's like you have this eye to understand when someone is looking at you, right, in a different way, right? Yeah, I mean, or if they passed like close to you and they, you know, hit you with the shoulder, like something like that. And yeah, that happened to me once here in Boston. So,
I mean, people have called the police on you.
Yeah.
So it's. So,
Why did they call the police? What did they think you were doing? Were you just standing outside and they're like, "Oh, that guy's up to something"?
It is when the crash.
Yeah, that was one, right?
And the other one?
And the other one, I mean, not that they called the police, but when you were like getting the mail on the front door.
Yeah, that's
right. Remember?
That's kind of funny because so we live in this house, and our entrance is on the back door, right? So you have to go all the way to the back door to come into our place, right?
Oh.
But all the boxes are delivered on the front door, at the front door.
They can get stolen.
So exactly. So they thought that, you know, I was like using a black hoodie, and my black sweatpants maybe as well, right? So I went to pick, and the mask, of course. And so I went to pick up the box, and this person gave me the look like, hey, you know, where are you going with this stuff, right? Something like that. And so, and then we talked with Julia, and we figured out it's like, if you are white, that doesn't happen to you. If you are white, that doesn't happen to you, right?
So no, I think if you're white and you're a white neighbor, your neighbor will at least mark what your face looks like. You know what I mean? Like a different face, and they'll realize it's familiar. But if you're not white, and unfortunately systemic racism can cause this to happen with people of all different races, they don't mark your face. They just see you as one of a mass. And so they don't recognize you as easily or as readily, and then they just assume you're up to something nefarious, which is total crap, and you're just trying to get your boxes because you don't want to get ripped off by people in your neighborhood. So
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's even like this sort of familiarity, because honestly, we don't know our like street neighbors too much. It's just that, for instance, if I had been there in my PJs, however crappy I was, like this person wouldn't have given me like a second look, because it was obvious that I belonged there. But as soon as is someone not white, then it's like this otherness, right? Like it's not your place. So it's basically that, right?
Well, have
So-
you been in a state in the country touring or any other reason that has a larger Hispanic, Spanish-speaking, Latino, Latinx, however you say it, population? Have you been to a state that has a larger population?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Miami, but for work, like many times. But it's like, I mean, I go to the office and then that's it. I mean, it's like I don't know the culture at all. You know, I see something,
Okay.
but it's not. Yeah,
yeah, I think New York.
New York. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, New York City.
Yeah, of
I
course.
would say, yeah, maybe.
We played there.
Yeah,
Well, New York has everything. New York is one place I'd expect it to be a little bit less, just because, I mean, it's
It
10
is.
million people,
Yeah, of
12
course
million
it is.
people.
Of course, it is much more diverse and
Yeah, yeah.
fun.
Yeah, like here in Boston, we have met some Latina people recently, like in the last 2 years. But I can count them with my fingers. so Angel is one of them, right? You know Angel and
Jan
right?
from Fake Movie,
From this band, and it's like literally I can count them with my fingers. So for a long time we had been like in this scene in Boston where we were the only Latina people,
Uh-huh.
and you don't see Black people like
Oh, you don't?
at all. Like
I thought Boston had a pretty large Black
Little.
population.
yeah, like
a little on the Gothic scene, really a little.
very little,
Yeah.
very little.
In New York, you see a little bit more, right? I mean, but
Yeah.
still a little.
Yeah. So it was kind of ridiculous because we were like the only like Latinas, and I'm white. So it's like, ooh,
So were you, did
exotic.
everyone think you were exotic because of that? Do people ever think you're
Yeah.
exotic, or do they, here's something that happens to
remember.
friends of mine. They will, as soon as somebody hears them speak Spanish at all, Latina, and I have a friend who is, one of her parents is white. So with white people, she looks Latina. With Latinas, she looks white. She's got kind of that thing going on, and you wouldn't necessarily know one way or the other. But as soon as people know she speaks Spanish, they start talking down to her like she's not as smart. They assume she's not educated. I had a friend who was asked, and she's an American citizen. She's from Mexico, and she's a lovely, bright human being. But she is asked frequently if she's a maid when she's out, and people try to hire her.
Oh.
She's not a maid. I forget. She's got her own business. She does like an Etsy store or something like that. So, but that happens to her all the time. And I'm in an area that has, I think Azzy's probably in a pretty high Latin Hispanic area too.
I mean,
Is
not in the
Tampa-
county I live in, but the
No?
state, yeah. Orlando has
Really?
a
Are
lot
you living
of
in a white county?
folks from Puerto
You
Rico.
live in the
and
honky land?
Miami has a lot of Cubans.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So
I'm
I know
Colombia.
quite a
Nice.
few. I know.
But people probably think the Cubans are Russian too because the accent's a little bit different.
Not in Miami. They know they're Cubans.
Oh, right. Well, Cubans know Cubans, but
No,
here,
I mean like the white
accent
folk
is
know
a little bit
Cubans too in
softer.
Miami. There's a lot of Cubans in Miami.
I know.
They're a big part of the culture.
I meant
of
the white
city.
people. Oh, the white people probably figured it out because the population's high.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Bad example.
Yep.
Okay, so how often do y'all get called Mexican?
Oof.
I have, yeah. I mean, I think I have like a generic phenotype. Is that the word?
No, you don't. Like you don't look Mexican to me, like at all. It's just that here, like
They have called me French. They have called me like Polish.
Polish, which is pretty.
Polish.
It's pretty shitty because Polish people are very discriminated in Europe. They are called like the N-word of Europe.
Yeah, I grew up with that. I grew up in Milwaukee. So Polish people are very much a lower class there. It might be better now, but no.
You grew up in
What do you
Milwaukee?
think?
I'm from Milwaukee.
Yeah, I grew up in Brookfield, Wauwatosa.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep, my dad's from Jefferson, Fort Atkinson.
I'm sorry, I just learned something kind of cool about you. That's
Yeah, I haven't spent that much time there, but But yeah, when you're whatever the group is, but I remember one time my dad and he looks pretty freaking German. I'm of German descent, and he looks pretty German. So we walked into what we called a blue collar bar, and when you're a blue collar bar, this particular one, it was Polish, and the whole bar looked at us because it was quite obvious we didn't belong there. Because first of all, it was a regular because Milwaukee when I was a kid, well, I mean I was a young person at the time. There was a bar on every corner. There was. I don't know if there still is. I know they've been trying to close some of those local taverns, but people
There's still
hanging
are
out there
bars.
all day, and you can get like a 7-ounce beer and just sit there and drink these tiny weird beers. But we go in, and the whole place. I mean, it was just like a movie. I can't imagine that happening everywhere you go, except of course, I look like this, and I've had people scream like this far from my face, but I can take this off. I don't have a problem. As soon as I take this off, it's gone. So
Yeah.
okay, so let's play our first song. What? Oh my God, I'm not looking at the list. Oh, bad host. I didn't have Twitch on. Y'all, I'm terrible.
I remember the song. Yeah.
Okay.
Do- do-
Maybe you can introduce the song, Claudia.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
So the first song is this band is Esplendor Geométrico from Spain. They started doing music like in the early 80s, and they do this like industrial noise, experimental electronic music. It's really, really good.
Oh, right on.
So this song, I think, is very like.
Oh yeah, yeah. Thank you, Julia. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, the name of the song, I think, is like pretty accurate for the weather that we have here up in Boston, at least. It's called Moscú Está Helado, meaning Moscow is cold. As fuck, basically.
Cold as hell.
That's an additive.
Yeah,
there,
that's
the
mine.
AF.
The AF is mine, but yeah.
Cold AF. Oh yeah, you can swear, y'all.
I do swear a lot. So thank you.
If it's in Espanol.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to flip over to this.
Okay. Yay, music.
Начинаем концерт краснознаменного имени Александрова ансамбля песни и пляски Советской Армии. Борис Александров на слова Сергея Острового. Песня о Ленине. Солист, заслуженный артист республики Константин Герасимов. Дирижирует народный артист Советского Союза Борис Александров.
Moscú está helado. Moscú está helado. Lenin tuerce la mirada, la muchedumbre lo aclama. Nadie está en la Plaza Roja, nadie sale de la fábrica. Moscú está helado. Moscú está helado. Sopla el viento en los motores del gran tren transiberiano. Solo un agente de guardia, solo en la sala de máquinas. Moscú está helado. Moscú está helado. Moscú está helado. Moscú está helado. Descansan las fresadoras, los puentes vulcanizados, las cintas transportadoras, los ejes y las poleas. Moscú está helado. Moscú está helado. Todo está helado. Moscú está helado.
All right, that's the end. So how old is that song?
This is
That
from the early 80s.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I was like, it has a Kraftwerk kind of feel in the back of that.
exactly. I mean, if you see, it's
It's
very minimal, right? Like very, you know, like industrial, and so the title, it says like Moscow is frozen, right?
Mhm.
And they recreate like this, like
Soviet Union.
Space with this, like, you know, minimal and industrial.
Right. Well, that was popular in the 80s.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Doing that, yeah, that kind of stuff. But with noise sometimes now with more modern bands, I think they're just trying to make your ears bleed. I don't know
Yeah.
if there's as much melodic intent or if they just want to make you cry.
Yeah. I
Or
mean,
be like, nobody likes our music, so they'll stay away. I mean, I can buy into that for sure.
industrial is a very, you know, like special genre. I mean, like you have like very few bands like they do something like really interesting, right? I mean,
Right.
I'm not a big fan of like electro industrial thing, right?
More on the experimental side.
More on the experimental or basic industrial, or
Yeah, I think I would be industrial that I like is probably basic industrial as well, because when it gets really heavy and it just starts to sound like screeching and oonce oonce, oonce oonce oonce. I kind of, it's time to go to the bathroom and just get away from the speakers in the club, and I'm just like, oh, geez Louise. So I'm really glad that you brought noise in Spanish, because I've never heard noise done in Spanish. Well, I mean, especially from that era. So. Okay, I forgot what I was going to ask. I forgot where I was going with all of the things and the stuff. Okay, so how do you get treated? You've been doing actually quite a few online shows, right?
Yep.
So are you, I'm assuming that everybody's treating you pretty fairly. It seems like it. Are you seeing a difference in how you're treated with the online shows as opposed to in person? This doesn't have to do anything at all to do with being Spanish speaking or Latina. This is just in general. I was like, we covered all this stuff that I was like, okay, I want to make sure I ask them this, and this. Now I covered all that shit, so we can just go crazy.
So
how is it? Because you guys are fucking everywhere right now.
yeah, so I mean,
so sorry.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand the question. So maybe like treated how like if we
like the I guess the organizers, right? Like
or the reception, the audience. So yeah. So what do you mean by like
treated? Yeah.
Oh, I should have said, how is it different from doing, because it's been pretty good size festivals. How is it different from doing shows live other than the painfully obvious that you're live?
Right.
How are the producers and the audience, etc.? Sorry, y'all. I've got a blanket on me.
Awesome. I mean, they've been really awesome, and I don't know if we discussed this last time, but I mean, all these online shows are amazing, and I mean, we have been lucky that, you know, they have invited us to play on these online shows, and I say that we have been lucky because we are totally independent, right? So we do our own self-promotion, and all these online shows for us, I mean, are great. Basically,
it's a way to cover like the lack of tours, of course. Like we very wisely decided to release an album in the middle of a pandemic when you cannot tour. I mean, like if you are like a more consolidated artist, of course, that doesn't hit you as hard. But when you're trying to make a name for yourself and get your music like around, right? Like the online fests have been super helpful for us to reach a new audience. Basically, like because people tune into these festivals from everywhere, right? So you can see people from Latin America, you can see people from Europe, from Asia. I see like a couple of people like from the US, of course. So probably in terms of reach, you can reach out to more people than when you tour, right? But of course, the difference is that you cannot play like a complete set. Of course, it's because online like span of like attention span is much shorter online than it is live, and of course the communication with the audience is not like there. It's different when you are like playing for the audience. That's energy that you generate, and the fact that after the show people will come to you and you will talk to them and they will give you their impressions on the music, right? And they will help you buy merch, right? so all that interaction that comes like during and after the show is, of course, is not translated entirely into an online format.
Well, you could just stop and type for a minute in the chat and see what happens.
Right.
Yeah. When the Germans are on, I don't know what it is. Every time I get in the chat, it's like everybody's German but me. And as I click to leave because I have to go do something, I see somebody else coming in from more countries, just other countries that aren't Germany. Because one time I went in, there's 50 people and everyone but me was German.
At what time do you tune in? Because that's the thing with the time.
That's probably, it's probably 2:00 in the afternoon on the weekday. So it's probably after work for them.
Right, that's 8.
Right. Well, yeah, but I'm just sitting here working at home. So I'm like, well, let's just listen to a song or two. Immediately, I will get a meeting invite from somebody at work. Immediately. So I got to see both Then Come Silence, because they did full sets. They did 2 concerts. They've done 2 sets of 2 concerts each, right? They did one where they actually had an audience of like 8 in the studio with them. But I go and I got to see 8 minutes of one and 4 minutes of the other. And I was like, well, this is great. So are you planning to continue to do anything live streaming even after we're all, God, I hope, vaccinated and released from, or me allowed out of the country?
Yeah, we have a couple of more shows. But actually, after answer to your question, and I hope that all these online shows, got, like stored and then uploaded somewhere, hopefully YouTube, I mean, because for instance, Goth for Sanctuaries is not on YouTube.
Right.
Right.
So, that I've seen Gothicat, I thought, oh no, Gothicat's all videos. One of them, I could swear that they had shared something live.
Yeah.
Unless
they do.
I could swear I've seen you guys with one of the live videos.
Yeah, we were. But I mean, for the bands, it's so great. I mean, all these festivals are so great. You have to, put them, on internet, on YouTube, and like available for everyone. I think.
Right. I think a
lot of the fests they do.
A lot of them, yes. Gothica they do. Yeah. But some of them they don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work, like also.
It is. But that's the point, and that's the point. It's a lot of work, and then what? Mm-hmm. What is the register of all of this, right? So
exactly. So, but well,
Sorry. I want to, but.
You want to go on a rant? No. I mean, to answer your question, I think like Well, yes, you were saying, Claudia, like we have a couple of upcoming shows. So we have one the 27th, actually, just like a few days from now.
5 days from now? Oh yeah, but we're not through the vaccination process.
Exactly.
We've got a long way to go before it's safe
exactly,
to be
exactly. So and for instance, here in like in the US, in Europe, the vaccine is going to be available much earlier than in Latin America. For instance, we were discussing about that the other day on Facebook. I remember that I mentioned that to you.
Well, and to our less wealthy people here, because our country as a whole, the US as a whole, is very wealthy. But our poor, our marginalized, they're not going to get that vaccine. They're going to get it about the same time Zimbabwe gets it. But what I'm hoping is that there's less travel to some of those countries, so they're not hit as hard.
Exactly. So I don't see that, for instance, for the next year, live shows are gonna be a thing. Like at least not for us, and probably like not for a lot of people. So I expect these online shows to continue, like with a lot of like pretty much like right now. But then after the pandemic, I really hope that at least some of this continues, because like beyond the pandemic, I think it's a great way to make community, like between people that like you cannot see them like in person, right? But you can still like make bonds and like make friendships with the people that you see in the chat the whole time, right? So I hope that at least to some capacity this continues after the pandemic.
Yeah, I'd like to see like two of the bigger online, because some of those festivals have been like 4 days long. I'd like to see a couple of those that are like a couple days, 10 bands, whatever, that you have to pay for, to make sure all the bands get paid, to make sure the producer gets paid for equipment, time, effort, etc. Because I am a strong believer that musicians should get paid for their work, because it is in fact work, no matter how much you love it. Same with artists. But I would like to see a couple of those. And always, always, always bring on just at least 2 or 3 tiny, tiny acts that nobody's heard of. I say nobody's heard, like the local ones that will open for the opening band in your local shows. Like if you have 3, because in Dallas, we always have like 3 or 4 bands. So I went and saw Wingtips, and Wingtips played, actually, I think the headliner was actually Rose Garden Funeral Party, which is weird in your hometown, but it was Wingtips, Rose Garden Funeral Party, a weird, and I'm mad because I couldn't see it, performance art band, which I can't remember what they're called, and then Aztec Death Machine. So of those bands, you would have probably heard of 2 of them. And the performance art, 2 people stood directly in front of me while I was trying to get an Instagram so I could post that artist. So people could see that there was this weird, they read a book. It was fucking weird. It was fantastic. So 2 of those bands, unfortunately, one broke up, but 2 of those were smaller bands. One had some local notoriety, and one was just out of nowhere. And I'd like to see some of those kind of acts be able to get on some of the online festivals, especially since we don't have any local shows happening. And I think that
who does that? On that note, who does that at this point? Nicole Ferrer from Darkstream Boston. So she was going to she was going to organize the Darkstream Boston festival back in April, this festival that we were gonna be playing on. So of course with the pandemic, what she has been doing is a lot of online shows under the Darkstream Boston name, and she invites both consolidated acts, or upcoming acts. But she also always invites a local band that is like, a lot of times it's like, that is their first show ever.
I love that.
Exactly. She does that a lot. So I will send you an invite when I get them.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah.
It's just the same thing as people who are beginning doing their first performance of, I don't care, juggling, music, dance, I don't care. I love them. Because they're so scared. And if you're an entertainer, you remember what it was like. And so I see a lot of times that people who are pretty seasoned entertainers have much more, you could go from tolerance, but I really think love for those beginning acts. And so I personally, I want to see them. I want to see them, kind of scared and then feel good when they actually make it through and the earth did not swallow them up and everybody survived. But I just want to see, I want to see artists getting paid, because right now it feels like we're depending on Bandcamp Fridays to pay people. And I'm like, okay, well, that's, that's cool, but not everybody's going to have the equipment and the knowledge to get their shit up on Bandcamp. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So in the meantime, let's support them. But I like to be supportive of the goth scene in general.
Yep.
But yeah, I keep seeing you're like everywhere, and I'm like, oh,
Literally everywhere.
that's cool. But the other, well, maybe it's because you're both in my friends, and then I see it on Obscure Undead, so I just see everything. Or I log in and there it is. I'm like, oh, hey, Pilgrims of Yearning's playing. Hey, that's cool. I'm going to actually watch some of the videos afterwards, and I love. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot. I can hear the melody of that song. The first video you did from the album that you did at home, right?
The Visitor, right? The Visitors.
The Visitor is the one in black and white? Or...
No.
No, the one with all the
In God
like
You
home
Trust?
stuff. Just
Yeah, In God We Trust.
In God You Trust. Yeah.
Yeah, In God You. I'm sorry, that makes me think of KMFDM, even though I'm like, okay, I don't listen to them really anymore. It had something called the USSA. So In God You Trust kind of gives me, it doesn't sound anything alike, but it gives me that same kind of feeling of, yeah, In God You Trust. So I'm a fan of protest music in general, and we're getting to see some very obvious protest music now, which is fantastic. But yours was one of the first ones I saw that was totally done. It was In God You Trust was totally done in your apartment and a park, or was it all in your apartment? Loved it. Loved it.
All indoors, all in our apartments. Yes.
I like it because you have to be more creative. You don't have, and this is absolutely, please don't take this as an insult. You don't have the slick polish. We can see enough slick polish shit on YouTube every day. I like to see grassroots. I like to see where it all starts. And so I'm a big fan of like the upstart kind of stuff and just doing it yourself. Like the bands that Still Patient. I don't know if you've heard of them, but well, their videos are usually done on their iPhones.
Yeah.
Even it's on the seaside, they're all holding their instruments. So I was like, they're just using it.
Actually, our idea for this video was, that it had to look like really do it yourself and really simple, really homemade.
Yeah, right on.
It was by concept, right? So it was like, let's do it this way,
Yeah, that was the concept, and also is our concept like behind all of our streamings that we have done for festivals. We have this same concept because honestly, like, of course it's always nice to see something with a big production or whatever, but to me, at least personally, for us, it's like in the pandemic, it's like this feeling of being at home, being vulnerable, exposing like this intimacy, to me, we have been talking with Claudia about that, and for us, that's like the idea behind it. It's like, I mean, of course, we could pay someone and do something like in a big venue and whatever, and people will love that, probably, hopefully, I don't know, but it's not what we attempt to do, because you can do that at any time with money and resources. After the pandemic, we will be able, hopefully, to do something like that. But right now, it's like this vibe of being home. It's not that I am at high risk, so it's not as I can go outside and get together with people to film something either. So it's both practical and the concept behind it.
Right. Well, I thought it was pretty successful, and I think it actually matches the album pretty well.
Thank you.
I think it really does. I think there's kind of a brashness to it overall.
Mm-hmm.
To Pilgrims of Yearning, not the Pilgrims of Yearning. All right, so something else.
I was thinking earlier today. I was thinking like, why not the Pilgrims for Yearning? What? I don't know.
Well, why Pilgrims of Yearning?
we might have to discuss that. Like
Yeah, probably we discussed that at some point.
Well,
Yeah.
well, when you break up and you go your separate ways and you have your two feud projects, one can be Pilgrims of Yearning and the other can be the Pilgrims of Yearning.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh my God, wow, burn. Okay, on that note, let's play the next song.
Claudio, you wanna?
Let's talk about bad segues because I do that all the time, which is Frustration by Blind.
Oh yes, yeah. So yes, we chose some of the songs that we chose is because we used to do some parties back in Chile, right? And sorry.
No,
Huh?
sorry.
And, maybe around 2009, 2010, right? And so we were introducing new bands, and this was one of the new bands that we introduced from France. Frustration, they blew up my mind when I saw them. I mean, back in 2008 in Lisbon, I had the chance to see them playing live, and I mean, they are amazing, and they have several CDs, several LPs, and they are awesome. Yeah, and this was one of the famous songs that we used to play in our parties, right? Like the anthems, like that you have as a DJ. Right, that you know that it's like, like a big song, and so yeah, this was one of them.
I hope I got the right band.
Frustration Blind with Space People.
Yeah, right.
I know that you believe I'm really intolerant. The rules that I see a society like a run. In your paper on TV screen and around the world. Do you compromise? No friend of my word. Blind. Are you so blind? When we were young, we so wanted respect. We so born now, sleeping us like a pet. You don't have to pay, you don't have to shut your mouth. Your nervous subject is the law of the strongest. Blind. Are you so blind?
Are we live again yet? Are we live again yet? Are we live
Yeah,
again yet?
right as you said something, I hit unmute, so totally.
Oh, look at that. You did. Yeah, I wouldn't mark that on Bandcamp. They're on Bandcamp, Azzy. Same picture as the Space People.
Oh, perfect. That was great. That
Yeah,
was
all you gotta
like-
do is look for something that's French. It was like, okay, this song title is French. Something French underneath this. It's the right band. So yeah, that was good. That had 3 places where it was unexpected. I could see why that was popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really nice. So you were in Lisbon when you saw them during your
Yeah, so it was this the Drop Dead Festival. So it's this woman is Paulina Y, and she did these drop dead festivals for years. She's from New York, actually.
Uh-huh.
And so she did these festivals in the US, in Europe, in different places in Europe, like
Okay, yeah.
amazing festivals, like with 30 very, dead rock, Batcave bands.
Yeah.
And she did festivals in I don't know, Vilnius, for instance. Vilnius, that's in Lithuania, I think, or in Prague, or in Lisbon. Lisbon is where I went when I went 2008. So I mean, really, really good festivals. When I went there was Lynn Lovick. I remember like Cinema Strange, Madre del Vicio, Frustration. It was really, really amazing, lineup. And it was like 5 days, 5 days festival.
Oh,
so
okay. So kind
really,
of
really good.
big like Vegete in Germany. I mean, that's as many days, right?
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
a lot of days.
so
5
this
days is a big festival.
This is Portugal, right?
Yeah.
Portugal, right? Yeah.
Yeah. This.
In Lisbon, yeah.
That's cool. I hadn't heard of that one. So she stopped. Did she stop doing that festival?
Yeah. She's not doing them anymore. But yeah, it was never in a fixed city. It was like, I think it was like the first 5 versions in New York City, and then she did like in different cities across Europe. And
she's living in Europe now, and she has a show like Mutant Transmissions show.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah.
It used to be easier to move around like that, but I mean, now we've got Brexit to add in with the US being highly taxed everywhere back and forth. So that's going to affect, our bands, because there's so many in the UK. So everybody traveling around to and from Europe and to and from the US is going to get, I mean, let's just pretend we're going to be able to in the next year. Because I'm assuming we just had a festival it's a jazz festival, because I live in a town with a huge jazz school, like the world's biggest jazz music school is in Denton, Texas, or used to be. And so they just moved that from April to, I think, October.
I just want to chime in here that Mutant Transmissions, there is a festival on December 29th.
Yeah.
And
Seriously?
there's a whole website, mutanttransmissions.org.
Yeah.
I've seen flyers for this all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm just getting excited about stuff.
Oh, that looks very psychedelic. It's pretty. Yeah, I've never heard of this.
I think if I have to, I mean, Paulina, I mean, what she has done is amazing. I mean, it's amazing, and she also likes to introduce like different, like more electronic and like new stuff, that is not in usual, let's say, Batcave parties, right? So that's very interesting from her side as well. She always introduces like new bands, new concepts. So that's also really cool.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, a lot of times if you go to those shows, the more electronic shows, you'll see goth there. Mm-hmm. You see goth there. People don't only like the Batcave, and we're seeing all sorts of different stuff done on Twitch now. So I'm hoping that people will stick to that, because everybody's got their own show, so they're kind of playing what they really want to play. So I think that more of that music is getting a little bit of a wider audience. Mm-hmm. And I know that Obscura Undead doesn't play exclusively new, but don't y'all play a lot of new shit?
Yeah, pretty
Mouse
much.
plays a lot of electronic shit. Mouse.
Yeah, and we've all kind of become really niche in what we do.
Really?
So yeah, like usually when I spin, it's a lot of death rock and Spanish language goth.
That's true. Good.
So and Mouse does more electronic stuff, and the other Mouse does more of the electronic stuff and
more
post punk and dark wave. But yeah, we try to hit as much new stuff and niche stuff as we can.
I'm trying to think if I've ever, on an Obscura Undead, because I usually tune in at some point, I'm trying to think if I've ever heard a Sisters of Mercy song. I feel like I have, and I feel like it might be you. Have you played one? But a while ago. It would have been like 3 months ago.
No, it would
I
have
mean,
been a really
we're looking
long
at 9
time
months
ago
now of this shit.
back. It would have been a really long time ago back when I was still streaming 6-hour sets, and I would have
Yeah.
to go take like a smoke break or a pee break, and we put on like Temple of Love or
6
something.
hours set.
Put on Sumerland. Sumerland's like 100 years long. There's other songs that are really long that are just as interesting. But yeah, so how are people receiving the Spanish language stuff you're playing?
I have people who specifically pop in who are from all over Latin America who come to talk to me in Spanish knowing I can't speak Spanish. And who make requests and introduce me to all of these really cool bands that I've never ever heard before. Like just like their
cool.
local bands, which I think is really cool.
Do you have any of the, well, we'll just call them like the homogenous Goths asking for any of that music?
What do you mean?
Pasty-face white Goths.
Yes.
I mean, pasty-face white Goths, non-Spanish first language speaking people.
Yes.
All
Mostly
right.
it's because either they already know the bands or they've heard like bands on my stream and they ask for it again.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's
Yeah, we have noticed that too, that recently there is like, I think it's very, very early, you know, but it's a bit more of awareness of people that, oh yeah, actually there is a huge scene in Latin America, so let's hear some Goths bands from there. It's very early, but I think is positive. I just don't want, you know, what I wouldn't want to see though is like people fetishizing or how
fetishizing. Yeah.
fetishizing like Latin American music just because it is in Spanish as something like super exotic. It's because it's like for
Right.
me, for Claudia, it's like our reality is nothing exotic. You know, it's like
Right.
so it's kind of weird when people see like things as exotic. I would like them to appreciate the music for the quality it has, you know, basically.
Right.
So hopefully that's the direction it takes.
I haven't seen any of that sort of, you know, just fetishization because it's in Spanish.
Yeah,
What I've noticed is absolutely there's been this trend because I've always loved a lot of Spanish language goth rock or just music from Latin America or anything that comes out of a La Movida sort of tradition simply because it's different than what you find in you know, basically, you know, I guess Michelle's homogenized pasty white folk countries. It's different. It has a different background. It in my mind, or at least it tends to be more experimental and more willing to just play around and take risks. And also just lyrically, I find a lot of it tends to be more playful, which I think is really nice. And that's what I like about it. And I definitely have seen people gravitating more towards that, realizing that there's more interesting sounds to be found outside of every band that wants to sound like The Wake or Rosetta Stone or Fields of the Nephilim.
Well, I think also with Latin American bands, I think that the local culture of whatever country the band is in creating music has a little bit of influence. It probably has quite a bit. In some bands, it's obvious. There's a lot of influence of local culture.
Oh yeah, you can tell when a band is from Barcelona. I swear.
Well, I think that what we're hearing is something that still is definitely sounds very goth, but it has something different to it, and it's very engaging. I personally love the sound of Spanish singing. It's not. I don't think it's fetishized. I was trying to learn Spanish through music years ago, and so I would pick out like every 3rd to 10th word, and I guess I just got used to hearing Spanish, and it's kind of.
I guess it might be like the cadence, because Spanish cadence is different from English cadence.
Yeah. It's just a little bit different, but it also shows you that the people who think that goth is like in this weird little box, and it doesn't have any room for anything that steps outside of freaking post-punk guitars all the time, y'all. Post-punk, or the sensitive guy gothic rock bull crap. But there's all sorts of stuff. And as most of my Latin American friends will tell you, we don't have waves it's always been here. And I always tell people, I'm like, Mexico, they've been going hard, going hard. And I always make sure that when I say I love Mexican goth, that I let people know I mean Mexican goth, not people south of the US goth, Mexican goth, or I love this band from this country, whatever, because I do really love Mexican goth a lot. But I think also we have a tendency of so many bands now, because everybody's talking more, because the interwebs, because of the pandemic, you're hearing more bands talking about going to Mexico City and how they want to go back to Mexico City. And so I wonder sometimes if people will start to think that that's like the only scene.
I mean,
Have you guys experienced that? I mean, anybody?
I've been seeing a slow kind of realization, not realization, but in this way, you know, people think of like Leipzig as kind of like a goth mecca. I've seen
Oh yeah,
a shift
yeah,
in people
once a year.
thinking of Mexico City in that same way.
Oh, okay. I just think of Mexico City as a giant city that can support the pretty good goth scene.
Well,
Plus, I've heard
Mexico
they're
City
educated.
is
I've heard in that
has
city they're
been
educated.
Mexico City has been, sorry to just interrupt, has been for a long time a really huge hotbed for multiple alternative music scenes. Like, it's very, very well known in the metal scene as being just this massive, influential environment for metal, and I think it's becoming that same way for goth.
Well, do you think that's just like all cities have their own mood and culture? Do you think that's just kind of Mexico City as like what 22 million people or something live in Mexico City? Is that kind of the mood or the culture of the city itself, not the country, obviously the city of Mexico, that they're very into their subculture of music, that they support it and they go out and they keep doing these things to keep it going and to keep it alive in whatever subculture of music we're talking about.
Right. So what happens? Well, it's like Mexico City, as you said, is huge, right? And
Yeah.
well, especially I don't know, especially for people in the U.S. and I don't know if in Europe it's the same, but I noticed that for people in the U.S. when they think about Latinos, they think in Mexico. So, for instance, I don't know,
Well, we're a bordering nation, so I mean, that's logical, but yeah, it's
yeah, but I mean there is so much more to that. So so I know like I remember like a manager at my works like saying Happy Cinco de Mayo. I'm like, thank you, but I'm Chilean. Like I have nothing to do with that. And for him he was like mind blowing. Like, hey, yeah, Latin America is like 25 different countries or so. so of course
it's a lot.
Of course, so you have a rich culture in Mexico with and in city of Mexico so many people, right? Of course you're gonna have like a burst of activity, but the scene is pretty much active in other cities in Latin America as well, and they have their own dynamics, their own scene, like in Sao Paulo, in Lima, you know.
Yeah, I've heard the scenes in both of those cities are really good. I've
Yes.
actually heard a few people mention Lima.
Yes.
Sao Paulo to me seems like a given because there is quite a bit of good goth music coming from Brazil.
Exactly. And Sao Paulo is also like 20 million people. It's
It's
as huge as city of Mexico. So it's like so yeah. I mean, so I wouldn't want people to think that Latin America goth is just Mexico. I mean, Mexico is great and I love it, but there is a lot more to that.
Right, and I think that we have a tendency as white folks in the U.S. to call every person from south of the U.S., which is a continent and a half, Mexican. How many people will just assume somebody is? You can't assume somebody's Mexican. You can't assume somebody of Mexican descent speaks Spanish either when they're in the U.S. You just can't make those assumptions. We do all the time. So I think in the U.S. especially, there's a tendency to want to latch on that Mexico City scene.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the market. That's what I've seen pictures of. But if I had to choose between going to Mexico, I don't know what I'd do. I do not know if I would go to Mexico City or Lima. I might go to Lima just because it's more different, a little bit more different, further away from home.
You know, I was thinking, you know, about all of these, you know, South American bands and Latin American bands, and it's a quite it's quite a topic, you know, because it's like now you have more people, more American, maybe more European people listening to Latin American bands, and you have all the language barrier, right, that you have to break, because all the famous music, or the most of the famous music, Anglo music, it's in English. It's in English, right? It's in English. So how do you break that barrier, right? How do you make the people, right, to now to try to enjoy some music that they cannot understand the lyrics, right? Right. I mean, and that's a barrier. I think that's a, let's say, cultural barrier, right, that you have to break. And at the same time, you have all these Latin American bands that we sing in English, we sing in Spanish, right? And we all are trying to get to the Anglo audience. If you ask, for instance, if you ask all these bands, and all of them, they would love to play at the Gothic Treffen, at the Wave Gothic Treffen someday, right? They see like, wow, I mean, if I'm able to, or to tour in Europe, or to tour in the US, I mean, that would be, you know, like, I'm becoming a big band, right? It's not like if you tour in South America, it's not like that. It's like you validate yourself as a band only if you are able to make it to Europe or to the US.
I've heard that. And I've heard that bands aren't appreciated as much until they've been there, until they've been to, well, a white country, a mostly white country. We'll just go mostly white country.
It's quite a topic. That's what I said. It's quite a topic, you know?
Oh my goodness. It's like, this 500 years of colonialism and imperialism.
For instance, if you ask about like the top 20 albums of 2020, right? I mean, and you see all these, you know, all these magazines, and they don't look at Latin American albums, or maybe Spanish albums, or right? I mean, Italian album. I don't know. Maybe Italian, yes. Italian, yes. I don't know. But you know, there is a cultural, you know, I don't know.
I mean, they will look at Europe and the US. Period. It's like, I think it's amazing that these people in Camland are making music from Indonesia, because
right out of nowhere,
and people and I'm sure like them, there must be others, you know. It's just that people here is like, you don't think that there is a scene in there, you know. But it is
right. And where are they from? Asi, where's Kamlan from?
I believe they're from Jakarta, which does have a strong scene. There are other sort
of
Malaysia bands. There's a death rock band out of Indonesia
from there.
I think they're called Barbars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a bunch. There's a whole lot more than you think, and I think we're finding some of these pockets now.
Considering that in that part of the world, one of the big ways that people can, you know, like make it out of you know, their country and, you know, make more money for their families is basically by becoming cover bands for like cruise ships.
Oh yeah.
So there's a huge music culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, as Claudia was saying, like for bands like in Latin America, and I'm sure in South Asia, or in African countries, like in West Africa, you have countries with a like an important scene as well. And for all these places, like, you get validation through Europe and the US. And well, one of the reasons, like, besides like, you have, like, I think you can name cultural reasons, but also is acquisition power, like money, you know, because like your money in your country is not worth shit. So it's like the way that you can make some money is like getting your material to audiences who can pay more for it, you know.
Right.
it's a how it's, I don't know if the word is correct, but it's a chain. It's a chain of things, right? It's a different things, right? Because we have sorry, we have friends, right, in bands in Chile, for instance, and they're really good, but it's like if you don't have a record label promoting you, helping you, how can you do it yourself from Latin America? How can you compete with like thousands of bands in Europe and the US?
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
I heard that.
It's really, really complex for them, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And even if you have record labels in Latin America,
Mhm.
it's difficult for them to compete with, you know, with the Europeans and US record labels.
Oh, absolutely.
There's-
I mean,
Right? So
in the
So-
U.S.,
so-
I know
so
labels feel like they
we
can't compete
we
with
have lived
German
that.
bands.
We have lived that, like, even if we are in the US, right? When we arrived, we had no networks, we knew nobody, so it's like double the work to get yourself out there.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
Because you have this whole culture that like with bands that maybe they have been together for a year or so, but they have been living here in Europe their whole life, so they already have all this network of friends, of promoters who can help them and get their material out, right? So for us, it hasn't been like that. And imagine that we are here, like for people in our friends' bands in Chile, for instance, is like they don't have that at all, and like so.
Right.
So
Yeah, they
so
don't
that,
have the infrastructure we have for the networking and the buddy system, friends helping friends, good old boy system, because we still have that bullshit too. But one thing I used to ask people when I would interview them, I was like, well, are you going to sing in your native language? And almost across the board, the answer is no. It's just no. And I was like, well, why don't you sing in your native language? I mean, it's a natural, it seems natural you'd want to. And every one of those bands is like, it doesn't sound right. It sounds wrong in my own language. And I'm talking like
Wrong.
German bands and
I don't know.
Portuguese.
Wow.
yeah, I don't know.
You cannot say your language sounds wrong. You cannot say that.
I agree with that.
I would understand that. I mean, strategically, right? They would do it because of, I mean, internationalization.
Right.
Right,
Well, no, they
but-
just said it sounded better in English. Just it sounds better in English. And I thought, I beg to differ, but I'm not going to tell you how to run your band.
Yeah, and probably because there is like this whole, like, as you were saying, Claudio, right? That like all the big bands sing in English, so you have like this image of how goth should be, right?
Right. Right.
So I mean, you have been seeing like little by little how that skin is breaking. For instance, as for us, I'm gonna tell you, like, the two reasons that I write lyrics mostly in English, because we have one in Spanish, have I have. I pretend to write more lyrics in Spanish, by the way, but it's two factors. I mean, first, we want to target the US and Europe audiences, at least in the beginning, right? That they get to know us, and then probably they will like have like a better approach to our sound in Spanish. So
Right.
there's that,
I
and
mean,
then
now you've been performing in the U.S., so you've already got that street cred. If you went back to
exactly.
Santiago and performed there, you'd be like, well, we used to perform this in the U.S.
And then the second reason is like is artistic, and is not because I think that goth sounds wrong in Spanish or anything like that. It's just that I think that for me it's more difficult to write in Spanish than writing in English. And I think probably the reason is because in English, since it's not my first language, I can go like I can just jump into whatever, and I won't think too much about it, like whether it sounds weird or wrong, or
you're like, okay, that's a sentence and it makes sense. Perfect.
You're
in your language, you're going to be like, this is not as poetic as it should be. It's not perfect.
No, I mean, to me, it's like I'm much more self-conscious when I'm writing in Spanish, and I compare myself to all like the great lyricists that I know in like they write in Spanish. So it's like inevitable to try to aspire to be something like them, and it's like, oh my God, I can't. In English, I don't have that. Like, so, but yeah, I'm trying my best to come with some more songs in Spanish, for the next works.
I think that it's quite possible that we're going to be seeing an audience that's more receptive to it, simply because of twin tribes. People
And
flipped
also, she
their
passed away,
shit
y'all.
over
No, she passed away only
Fantasmas.
sings in Turkish.
Yeah.
And Turkish too. I think that
And
that's
they're
really
brown.
how people getting familiar with it. But I think that too, what Joel is doing with his label Beso de Muerte, they are the U.S. distributor for Wave Records, which is I think they're out of Sao Paulo, right?
Yeah, I thought they were
Correct.
Brazilian.
Yeah, and Young and Cold. So like
Yeah.
that's a big like European like label name backing him, and also like Wave Records. I think they're huge. I don't know how many people know them in the U.S., but
No,
that feels like a huge foot in the door, and hopefully might wake a couple people up.
Well, and they're sneaking some Spanish into their music more and more.
Yes, and I love that so much.
Like a lyric here, a lyric there, but you're here. They're just sneaking it in there more, and I think that's fantastic.
Mhm.
Oh, for instance, what Eva from Maleficio,
Mm.
what they did with Dark Salona.
Oh yes, no,
You had
Dark
to-
Salonas.
that was fun, right? That was really fun. I mean,
Yeah.
that was very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Speaking
yeah,
of
so hopefully what I have been seeing is like a slow change of tide in that direction, and hopefully that means also that for bands in Latin America, when they see that this reception of music made in Espanol, it encourages them to see like their own quality, our quality, because we do have shit ton of quality.
Right. Well, just good music comes from everywhere.
Yeah.
Good music just comes from everywhere. And it's about damn time that the US really opened up to more Spanish speaking bands. I mean, we have like what, 29% of our population is Latin American? Hispanic, Latin American?
Yeah.
29%, y'all. That's a lot of people who are likely to speak Spanish, because we know that not everybody speaks Spanish from that of their origin. And so, first of all, I mean, why are we not all bilingual in this country? But that's a
Working
whole
on it.
other show. But yeah, you'd think that we would have more Spanish bands, but it seems to be, or more notoriety for our Spanish speaking bands, but it seems to be more in LA, the LA scene. But also, again, there's more death rock there. And I think that death rock is a little bit more accepting of it.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Azzy? Because Azzy's the death rock person on the.
I would say so, because people I think would just assume that it's a statement. Plus, there's a lot of really amazing death rock that comes out of Latin America. So.
Oh hell yeah, hell yeah.
And that has that's like a huge template. Like, that is something that is so overlooked, is how early death rock and goth and post-punk got adopted into the Latin American scenes. Like, it's been like
Been there for
almost
40
the same
years.
time as it originated in Europe and in North America, like specifically
Right,
United States.
right.
Excuse me, I mean LA.
Right, like 5 minutes after somebody wrote a death rock song in LA, somebody in Mexico City was singing a death rock song.
No,
and then
Mexico
somebody in
City
Lima
was
doing
actually
it
a
5
little
minutes
lagging
after that.
behind some other countries, but basically, yeah. But
Yeah,
like it's just as like mature and has the same like time depth, and there's so much shit that's been going on with it, and people just don't realize.
Actually,
it.
I was looking at the list of the songs that I sent, and it's because it's very like on time, because there is a band from Mexico.
Oh, good.
It's very dead rock. It's like, and the song is very representative of that dead rock that you get from Latin America, and it's when we have the time, I will.
But why not right now?
Yeah, let's do it now.
So the band is a project, actually. The band is Dead Junkies, and
Oh, good. That's
is
nice.
the Junkies is the La Voz de tus Ausentes singer, who is Cesare. He has been doing music in the Goth Mexican scenes for years. And Dead Junkies is a B-side project that he did with another band I think it was Siniestro Maniquí, if I'm not wrong.
Uh-huh.
Siniestro Maniquí. So, and this song is from, again, 2011, 2012, when we used to do our parties. It was another anthem of our party. So it's Monstrous.
All
It's
right.
a Mexican death rock.
Right on. Perfect.
Buenas noches, damas y caballeros. Trataremos un tema de lo peor. Los jóvenes vagos, ellos festejan en las calles, se drogan, beben y fuman. Con un
like their page. That was cute.
I think that sounds very Latin to me, like very Latin.
Yeah.
That rock, you know.
That's fabulous. I had no idea. I'm trying to
Yeah,
find
I
like
over
where
here
I can
looking at
get their
stuff.
music, and I could just find a SoundCloud. That is amazing. Thank you.
They have a Facebook too.
I found the Facebook.
It is on the Facebook.
It's a very small project. It's a B-side project of these two bands, and I think they have like a couple of songs only, but this song became really famous at that time.
Oops, I lost it. Oh, I closed my Facebook. I wind up by the end of when we talk to people, I have like 10 tabs open because I start looking stuff up.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like.
Well, I mean, the whole point of asking people to bring music is so that we all discover something new. And you guys, I don't. Okay, I do know who Cinema Strange is, obviously. On the end of that, we haven't played it yet, but yeah, there's bands I have no clue about. And I understood about 4 words of that last song. I was all excited. Oh, caballero. And then I couldn't understand it anymore, and I was like, damn it. Okay, it's a long process. Learning Portuguese is helping a little bit with understanding a little bit of Spanish.
I'm always surprised at how much more Spanish I can understand now because I've been
Yeah.
trying desperately to learn Spanish for about a year now, and I suck at it still. But
Or you got to practice. Find some
You know,
something.
yeah. That's how I learned English actually myself. I started, to translate songs because I wanted to understand what they were saying, and that's how I learned.
well, I have two books that I'm working through. One is about Parálisis Permanente, and the other one is about
Oh,
Goth
nice.
in Spain in the early days. And they're both in Spanish, and I'm working on translating them, and I'm learning some through that. But I also have
Which book you have? What book you have from the 80 from the
What's the name of the book?
what's the name of the book? Yeah,
which one? One is
not the Paralysis Permanente, the other one.
The Spain one about Spain.
the one about Spain is Quiero ser Santa.
Okay. Okay.
You know it?
I know it by name. I haven't read it. It's just.
No, but that's Paralysis Permanente, right?
Yeah.
I can yes. Well, I can go get the books.
Yeah, because I have I have a book. It's a Spanish book as well, and it tells about the whole, like the whole Spanish movida, la movida española, and all of that. And
I'll go get the books.
yeah, no, I just wondered if it was the same book, but yeah.
Oh, I forgot I know they were reading the Paralysis Permanente.
I will get mine.
Oh, it's book hour.
Ooh. Time to show off.
I know they're going to compare books. Hopefully, Andy can find theirs. But yeah, I think actually with a book, learning from a book, you have more of an idea of how people speak than you do from a language textbook.
Right.
Yeah, you see words as people use them more because you don't necessarily learn that fast when you do.
What's been better for me for learning is
Show yours.
practicing with people, but
No, you can do it. Not
What happened?
worry your
I
shit.
dropped it. First book.
Oh, okay.
That's all right.
Adictos a la lujuria.
Yeah. And then this one.
Quiero ser santa.
Quiero ser
30 años de
santa.
oscuridad, transgresión y experimentación.
Fernando Paino.
It's the same author, so we got yeah.
Look, I have this one, but it's the same author.
Ooh.
I think this is maybe it's older. This one.
I think,
Maybe. This one was published in I don't know.
it was usually like.
Oh
in
yeah,
the
all of
beginning.
his books are right here in the beginning.
So yeah, this was
Oh,
published
that's
in
cool.
2007. this one.
2009.
There you go. Yeah, but this guy Fernando Paino, he's really famous in Spain. I remember. He used to. I think he's a DJ. Yeah,
Is-
he
is
was a
he
DJ
like-
in.
Is he like the Spanish Mick Mercer?
Maybe, yeah, I would say so. That's yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Nice.
By the way, I love Mick Mercer.
Hilarious.
He's so funny. I love his cats and just everything he does.
I sent him one time, y'all. I sent him a friend request while I was out drinking with, my friend Clint. So we're out drinking in this bar, and I was like, I'm gonna send Mick Mercer a friend request, and I'll be damned if he didn't accept it. And then all he ever did was post pictures of his cats, and I was like, this is the best thing I ever saw.
Post pictures of his
Of
cats
course,
and
he
talk about
started
how much he
Mercer
loves his
Radio.
wife.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. His wife is-
I'm friends with Mick on Facebook. I don't know, since 10 years or something. And like the cat Olympics and all this stuff.
he's just-
And
he's
he
such nice photos.
like Claudio just found a comment that he did on my Facebook. I don't know, from 10 years ago, like on one of my cat's photos. Like it was like, oh my god, this is so hilarious! I never saw this. Like,
He has like 8 cats, I
Yeah.
think. I think I had a roommate that had 10 cats one time a long time ago. I'm allergic to cats.
Oh,
The
I
cats
just-
lived outside, so
I just wanted to bring something up.
Okay.
The name Obscura Undead is specifically like the way that it is because of my love for like Spanish goth and Mouse's love for like classic goth rock.
nice.
awesome.
That's amazing.
Oh, I
That's
get
amazing.
it. Undead,
I mean,
undead, and everything obscura.
that's amazing. I mean, when you see a project, right, and they put a name and based on in Spanish language, I mean, that's
I know,
I-
and I'm white as hell.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
I always thought it was
Thank you for that.
Latin, like obscura, because obscura is like it's correct Spanish.
Sorry.
Talking about the oscura cat.
Sorry, I had to do that. She was just passing by, so.
Oh, is that a big
Now he's
white
never going to
whisker?
pass by again.
No, she loves this. She loves the
Yeah.
attention. She loves the belly. She loves.
There you go.
She loves.
There you go. Okay.
With the cats I've lived with,
Sorry for that.
I would have lost an eye by now.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah, but no, that's amazing. That's great. Yeah.
Well, look at you, Azzy. Multicultural.
Well, I think it's my background as a linguist. I highly
Well, if obscura is
like-
Latin, then it would go across the Romance languages anyway.
yeah, but I have a background as a linguist, specifically not as a prescriptivist, and looking at sociolinguistics. So language in use and language in practice are kind of like my bread and butter, and I don't understand when people disparage on another language or treat someone who speaks another language as stupid, because it's so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, especially if somebody is multilingual and you're single lingual, solo lingual. What is it called when you only speak one language?
Monolingual. Also, I would
Lame.
I would never consider talking down to someone because, they might
No.
have an accent or don't speak my language as well. Because
I will speak slower if
Because-
they're having an issue understanding and
Right.
try to be very clear.
Well, yeah, and I speak really quickly to begin with, but it's like just because you speak another language, you may not understand the words I'm using, but that doesn't mean you don't understand the concepts.
Exactly. Usually in a sentence, if you can pick out like a sentence of 10 words, if you can pick out 5 of those words, you're going to know what they're talking about. You may not know every single thing. You may not be able to repeat the sentence back, but you know what they're talking about.
Yeah, you might not know the nuance. You get the gist.
Right.
Right. It's like when we were talking in the beginning, right? That I get that feeling that people are like infantilizing me when I speak. Like, I mean, I don't mind having an accent. Actually, is something that I take pride of because it tells you, right, that you took the effort and actually learned another language. So I don't care. Like like as long as I'm understood, I don't care, And then there is this whole school, like when you're learning English in Latin America, like they try to suppress your accent so you sound native, and that's like the maximum accomplishment. I don't give a fuck about that, honestly.
You just need to be understood. So
I mean, that's
if you
the whole
can
point
say
of
the
language,
words
right?
well enough to be understood by a native speaker, you're fine. And I promise you, if we take the effort, I realize just how far off a word can be, and I'm still going to understand it from somebody who's not a native English speaker.
Oh yes, yeah.
When people don't understand you, sometimes the accents are very thick. If you talk to just different people, have thicker accents. Two people from the same exact household, one can have a thicker accent than the other. I mean, it's just kind of person to person. But overall, I just don't really have too much of a problem with it. Although I have to say I was corrected when I was very young, when I was in college, which is very young now that I'm old. But I had a friend who had a pen pal from Japan come and visit, Mitsumi. And she did what Japanese people did at the time, young Japanese women. She bought a bunch of skincare products because it was so expensive over in Japan. But I was trying to say something to her, and I thought I was speaking slower. But what I was doing was speaking louder and louder, just like you see in comedies. And so that one thing, my friend's like, gosh, she's not deaf. She just doesn't speak English very well. And it just snapped. It snapped something so that I always try to speak slower and pronounce words correctly.
Right.
So I do my best. And then I will, which is interesting because I can't understand anything because I have horrific tinnitus. I will actually help someone who speaks a different language be understood by the room of people who are too impatient to try to understand. And they piss me off. That pisses me off. Just take a second.
You both speak very well. I mean, I can understand you like really, really well. So yeah.
Yeah, practice. I had to learn when I first started interviewing bands, I had to learn, even though I already have good pronunciation, I have good diction, I had to make it better and learn to speak a little bit slower because I was talking to people who didn't get to speak, even if they spoke English to people, it wasn't necessarily Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So when you speak to a British person, it sounds very different than an American. So I just speak more slowly, like you should be. Just be clear.
Yeah.
Just be clear, whatever your language is.
And I come from a
Oh.
teaching background, and I had lots of students from Southeast Asia. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I got to help a woman. I think she was Chinese or Korean, based on how she looked, but I didn't ask because she was in the vitamin aisle, and she was trying to make sure she was finding the right thing. She's in my local grocery store. I'm just there getting some drugs. I mean, prescription because it was a pharmacy. And so she's trying to make sure she's in the right place. And so she says the word, and I'm like, again, she says it a second time. I'm like, vitamins.
Oh,
she
did
was
she say
so
vitamine?
close. Huh?
Did she say vitamine?
I believe that she did, but
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, oh, I'm so glad she ran into me because I just helped her say the word, hopefully, because we say it different than the other English-speaking countries. We're the weirdos when it comes to vitamins.
Yeah. And some other words as well. Yeah. I mean, talking about linguistics, I mean, Julia, she's a linguistic, and I mean, and we love to speak about languages, and I mean, if you know, right? I mean, as soon as you learn another language, you learn a different concepts, and you have concepts that they do not exist in a language.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like for instance, and you speak a little bit of Japanese, for instance, Jules, and so there are concepts in Japanese that you don't have at all, right? Even in English or Spanish. So it's like you really, grow your vision of the world, of your global vision, your understanding of the whole humanity, right? So I mean, that's great.
Yeah, like the whole concept of wabi sabi. Like
have you heard, Asi, of this language theory? I don't remember the name of the concept right now, but I remember like the basics, which is like depending on the language that you're speaking as a bilingual person, some traits of your personality will be like more highlighted than others. Like some traits of your personality will go subdued, and others will highlight depending on the language that you're speaking.
Right.
So
it's not accommodation. It's something else.
Yeah, I don't remember the name, but that's basically the idea. So for instance,
what about the Germans?
My goodness. So for instance, like I can think, for instance, I don't know, like in my case, like I joke and I swear much more in Spanish than I do in English.
I get loud when I speak Spanish, and I'm not a very loud person.
Really? Yeah. Really, I speak much more quietly when I badly speak Portuguese.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think most of the time it's because when I'm speaking Spanish, I'm drunk. But I feel like it's okay to be loud in Spanish, but it's not okay to be loud in English. It's weird.
I don't know. I think people in the US are super loud,
Because we have a bad reputation for being loud. Yet when I was in Germany, it was Germans screaming in the park in the middle of the night. Bunch of drunk Germans. It just depends on the situation. But in restaurants, everybody was much quieter. And Americans were really loud in a restaurant.
Right.
So I don't get where to like I don't know. I know that Latin American people, we have this like image of being like loud people, but honestly, you guys don't do that bad at all. Like,
yeah,
it's like because here in the US, people, I know everywhere, but it's always dangerous to generalize. But in a lot of places, people are like very like I don't know, like outspoken and like friendly, you know.
Oh no, we're friendly. We talk to strangers more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know if
Yeah,
friendly was the word,
absolutely.
but yeah, right. So yeah. I mean, so you get that in the streets, like when you are like in public places, like probably if you go into a room with Chileans, it will be different. I think Chileans are a bit more quiet, like in general, you know. Like I don't know. It's depending on the context. Yeah, give them some drinks.
Yes, where's the
In the
Chilean
Latin America
this
context,
time?
Chilean, yes,
Yeah, everybody's loud with drinks.
Right. Well, it's like when I lived in Japan and I spoke Japanese, I found that I was more circumspect in my speech and far more polite. And I'm not also in English typically a very circumspect or polite person.
Well, you're not rude.
I'm not rude, but like just like
Well-
way more polite in Japanese than I would ever be in English.
Yes. Yeah, they'll circumspect. I think also one of the things about English, American English, is it's a very sharp language with a lot of very high, sharp tones. The way we speak, our T's are very harsh, our P's are very harsh. The way we say R's, it almost sounds like a growl sometimes. Our language is very sharp and punctuated. I'm not saying it's more than English people because they love those T's, but it's very sharp when you hear other languages because they kind of have a rolling cadence. All languages have a cadence, but I find English to be sharp.
I think you also just might be speaking of dialectal differences because there are definitely rolling dialects of American English.
Well, yeah.
to me, I like it a lot. The English language, I like it. You know how it sounds. It's very flexible. It's very versatile. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but
I like it. There are some other I prefer more, like for the French. French sounds amazing. I would love to speak French. It sounds
but give me
the sound, but
give me my swearing in Spanish, please. like
I'm Chilean.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's like
swearing in
in their native language.
Yeah,
When
swearing.
people get mad, they start freaking out in their native language, and it's just it's very fast and very loud.
Yeah, right. I mean, like in Chilean Spanish, you can go 2 minutes, no stop, just swearing. You know, so I done that. So.
Argentinians are very creative with swearing.
Yeah,
They are creative. Yeah, they have very.
Yeah, Mexicans too. You know, so Colombians too. They have like very funny ones. So it's like, and then in English you have like, I don't know, 2 or 3 words for swearing, and that's it. So it's like...
my best friend sometimes introduces me to like slang, and they're just like, but this comes from Colombia, or this comes from Argentina, or this comes from Mexico. So you would only hear it from these people, but this is how it goes. And they break it down for me, and oh my gosh, Spanish idioms are so much better than English idioms.
We're not trying hard enough. I like to make a long string. Okay, so what's our next song? We got 2 more songs. We gotta
Yeah.
do it.
So, next song is a band from New York, actually. I think it's Leatherist, if I'm not wrong. Leatherist. So Leatherist, minimal kind of post-punk project from New York. I'm really big fan of them, and the song is Scissors is another classic song that we used to play in our parties. It's a really beautiful song. Yes, check it out.
Classic party song.
Doesn't bring
found that one on Bandcamp, and it was only physical media, and it sold out. So
Yeah.
Claudio, you're a bad man. That was pretty. That was really pretty.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are dissolved. They are not playing anymore, and they brought like a fresh sound to the minimal wave
Yeah.
music. You know.
I like that. I like the
Yeah,
reverb.
yeah. No,
I thought that was really pretty.
I'm a big fan of them. Yeah.
And I'm partial to good vocals.
Right. No, I thought they were something about those vocals are very easy. I'm trying to think of how to describe it. Very comfortable. Yeah. So thanks for showing us that, since I can't buy it.
I
Yeah,
did
that
send
is the
it to
album I
Mouse right
found.
away.
I will send it to you. I will send it to you.
Mannequin Records. But yeah, the vocals are they're very gentle. They're very easy. It sounds like very comfortable. There's no straining, there's no reaching, but it sounds really good. I thought.
Actually, this one is from Weird Records.
Oh, they have it on Mannequin now, but they're like, psych, you can listen to it here, but you can't buy it. So I guess, damn it.
So yeah, Weird Records. I had the chance to meet the owner of this record label.
Oh, yeah.
That was really interesting. It was a Martial Cantrell show. Martial Cantrell show. No.
I don't know much.
From Sinan Ocklander.
From Sinan Ocklander.
It's the solo project of like half of Sinan Ocklander.
No, okay,
Mm-mm.
but he's a electronic.
That's why we're here to learn.
It's an electronic project from New York, and he's amazing, Martial Cantrell. So he played with Linea Aspera, and
Yeah, love them.
Void Vision also
Oh,
from
okay.
Philadelphia.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the
Gets
three of
around.
them, they played in New York, and Weird Records. They used to have several nights in New York, and this was I don't remember the name of the night of this, but I mean, they used to do like amazing parties in New York, and yeah, he's a painter. He's a very famous painter in New York. He lives
that
in
would be a place
just
where you can
imagine,
actually
in
be
New
a
York.
painter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Peter Skullbird. Now I remember his name. Peter Skullbird. So.
Oh yeah, black vinyl version only available. Sorry, sold out. And it doesn't even have their name, so I'll have to look them up a different way. Really, really nice cold wave on Mannequin Records, but I don't know what else they do. So
yeah,
I'm afraid I'm gonna click. Yeah, I don't know what any of that shit is. All right, so I have like 47 tabs that'll be open later because every time you play something. Luckily, Cinema Strange there's a higher likelihood I already have that one.
Yeah, no,
Well, when I didn't consciously listen to death rock when I was younger. I say always, but since when I first discovered goth music that I knew was gothic, now I realize it's gothic rock, like The Mission, Sisters of Mercy, and all that kind of crap. So death rock, I was just not exposed to it. So that's been like the last maybe 5 years when I started looking for new music again. And I'm liking it a lot. I like it. It's like a sense of humor. We need more of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was Cold Wave. That wasn't death rock, but whatever.
It's funny because
Yeah.
it's funny because for me, like I mean, of course you have been like in the scene probably more than I have, right?
Yeah.
So when I started to look for, I was not even looking for goth music or anything like that. I was just trying to look for something different. I was not too exposed. Like I didn't have like many friends as a teenager or anything, like the traits of introverted. Yeah. So just when I had internet at home when I was 20 or so, I started to look for different music, and of course you the first thing you listen when you're trying to listen to darker music was, I remember Lacrimosa. I remember like coming to like very like weird medieval tracks, like
Yes, yep.
probably that was like on fashion at the time, the early 2000s.
Yeah, I think it was. I had, but I wasn't looking for goth music back then. Goth music for me was kind of an organic pop music from my friends I hung out with. I had no idea that it was goth specifically at the time.
Yeah, no,
Found out later.
Yeah, I mean, me neither. I wasn't looking for anything like goth, but
Right.
I was looking for something like different, you know. And at that time, I came across this record by Cinema Strange, and it was like, oh my god, like absolutely like mind blowing.
What is this?
Yeah, what is this? What is this? I want more of this. And that's how I started to learn about death rock and gothic music, you know. So I came like from like a completely different place. Like usually people come from gothic rock or early post-punk,
right?
you know. So I came like through Cinema Strange, and then I was expecting like all gothic music was gonna be like that, and then it was like, oh no, okay, well,
you know that it runs because
yeah.
I did not know the Sisters of Mercy was gothic rock back in. I mean, this is in the 80s when I bought whatever Floodland when it was new. So I didn't know what gothic rock was. Once I figured it out was like a few years later, and if you said the words gothic rock, people would just turn around and walk away. Literally turn around because you didn't talk about it, I guess. Whatever. So where I really got that love of dark music was Dead Can Dance and This Mortal Coil and the Cocteau Twins. That's like for my early days, because I love the Sisters of Mercy, but them and the Mission and Bauhaus. But I didn't really pursue very much of that. I really pursued a lot more stuff that's called dream pop that I don't know if it was goth at the time, but it's part of it now to some people, not others, but you know, so I was like you, I had no idea. And once I heard the word gothic, I thought, oh, is this like the stuff I like? And so of course it was really hard to find. I didn't realize I was listening to stuff here and there. Like Faith and the Muse, I did not like them when I first came back and bought that because I'd heard of them because I was introduced to them as pagan music, not as goth music. So what I heard was only the feminine vocals, only that stuff, and only the most pagan, old medieval instrument sounding parts. So imagine when I come back and I'm listening to On Wind Beneath the Waves, I think, or no, Illyria, because Clint got me to get Illyria. And there's Cernunnos, which is a completely different kind of song. I was like, oh yeah, I was missing out. how you're introduced to stuff really colors how you think about it later. Because it still sounds like pagan music. So I completely discounted it. I had no idea it was goth.
Yeah, but that's a good point. I mean, sometimes you listen to something and you don't like it, but then I mean, after you maybe evolve or your ears, I don't know, or you change the way you approach to it. I don't know. It's different, right? I mean, you like it and
brilliant. Now I think it's absolutely brilliant. But there's that one song I don't know. I have no idea what song it is. It used to get played all the time when it was popular, I think. And I'm just like, what is this? I just fast forward it and enjoy the rest. But it's on Wind Beneath the Waves. I can't remember what song it is. Whatever. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. But it's where you come to this music from. It kind of colors your expectation of what you think goth is, and when you find out how different it is, how diverse it is in sound, and every scene is different, every scene has its own little thing. It's really amazing. It's really amazing. And I think that the COVID, as much as it sucks, is causing people to go online, so we have more access to that, so we're seeing a little bit inside of other people's scenes.
Yeah. No, and you know one thing, when we were younger, let's say 20 years ago or something like that, right? And when we were like searching for this music, back in those days, you didn't have all the music available on internet, right? I mean, there was not MySpace, not Facebook, no, you know, and so.
It was the one record store in town that you had to travel an hour to get to.
The way I used to get music, it was like, you know, like a pirate copies. You know?
Copy your. Oh, I would have.
But there was a market.
For people.
But wait, so there was a market, like a very, you know, like.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
Like a small market, and so you go there to this market and you get the copies, the you know pirate copies, like fake copies from
Yeah.
Gothic music, because there was no other way to get them.
Right.
And nobody cared because it was too very, alternative music.
No, they weren't going to make any money off of it if it was their right.
Right, exactly.
Copyrighted. Yeah, because Vladi from Jesus Crisis said the same thing, that when, I can't remember if he bought Hunky Dory, like David Bowie Hunky Dory, and that might have been the first time one of the only ones he had that wasn't pirated, because you just couldn't get it. You had to get like a copy of your friends if somebody had it, and they probably had a copy of the pirate, and you just couldn't get it. So in the US, like for zines and stuff like that, because there were local corner zines, but I had to go to a small record store before we had a really awesome little record store in town. You'd have to go to Bill's Records, which was an hour away from where I lived. And Bill was an older gay man, so if you were a girl, you would get your cute male friends to actually make the purchase for you because it cost less if you did that. But it was like this huge just warehouse with boxes of records, and you had to know what you were looking for, because if you went in there and just kind of browsed, you had no idea. So luckily, I had a friend that the first time I went, she got me to buy two things, and I can't remember what the other, maybe CCCP, which is also not goth, but Revolting Cocks, which is old school industrial, and CCCP, and maybe one more that was, I don't even know if it was actually goth. And she introduced me to a lot of that scene. She introduced me to goth club and some of the industrial music, because it was just so hard to get this stuff that it was more mixed, and my area is more mixed. So, it wasn't just like an all gothic rock show. I've never been to a goth night that was like that. Anyway, so the thing I love to tell people who like to be racist fuckers is that the person who introduced me to goth in the first place was Black. Shay, what a lovely person. She was very kind. And she helped me buy the Revolting Cocks, because she's like, well, you buy it. I already have one of theirs. You'll love it, because they only had one. It's stupid. I know it's a stupid story. But back then, this is before the internet, because I'm 1,000. I'm 1,015. The internet became available in the US in 93, 94, in like DOS. So I'm talking shopping in like 88, 89, 90. If you didn't have a store that carried that, and you'd never get the magazines, they would always be out, or they'd be $10. And $10 in 1989 is a little bit different than $10 in.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
50 or something, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I was in college, so I didn't have any money anyway. Or not in college, because I didn't have any money anyway.
Like in Chile, I remember that we had like these do-it-yourself zines and things like that were like circulating, like we didn't have any, like, ones. Yeah, we didn't have any like glossy magazines, and I mean that was fine. And
I remember the Death Rock magazines.
Oh yeah, right? yeah. That's the first
American.
time.
I think from California.
Yeah, and that was the first time that I actually like saw, and we had a goth magazine, like all glossy and stuff. It was a gift from Lucas Lantier when he went to Chile. So yeah, I mean that's the reason why we chose Cinema Strange as well.
And the other one.
Oh my God, another cat.
The other one, Esplendor.
Do all of your cats let you just hold them and poke at them?
Yep.
My dogs don't even do that. If I pick them up, they're going to start whining.
Esplendor.
Okay.
All my friends have pictures of their dogs dressed up in whatever Christmas thing. I'm not even Christian, and I want to dress my dogs up, but they hate it. One of them will pee. He'll just pee. He'll freak out and pee. One will be halfway out of his whatever little shirt in 5 minutes or less, and the other one will just stand still in horrible shame. So I can't dress my dogs up, and I have Chihuahuas, so they're tiny. So I can't dress them up. My friend's big old pug, because he's fat. He's wearing his little antler reindeer. Okay, I thought you might bring out those.
Oh,
yes. That magazine, yeah.
I only want to grab that one.
Can you put it again? Yeah.
Now that you
Hold on.
see you.
If I don't break everything, I'm very accident prone.
Yeah. That was the magazine.
That one, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's and you have it on the back. I mean, like very,
Well, yeah.
On the acid-free board.
I think that magazine is done by the same guy who runs postpunk.com now.
Oh,
It was?
Alex.
Alex, yeah.
Are you? I had no idea.
I think so. Unless there are two Alex Bakers, but
In the scene making magazines, that's kind of a big coincidence.
Yeah, right.
I was excited because I was able to get a copy of the Procession, the new one that came out.
Mhm.
Excuse me, which is glossy, and because I never could get the magazines back way back whenever. The first time I was able to get one, it was Gothic Beauty, and that's just not the same, is it? It wasn't like your local zine is like we had poetry zines and this kind of stuff, just all that kind of crap. So I bought a Procession and an Obscura Undead, and I feel like a really wealthy person because I have these two magazines that are
you
current.
are rich in zines.
I am rich in zines. Now I just read a little bit at a time because I'm lame as well. Okay, so we can play the last song now.
Yes.
Can we play it after I buy a copy of Procession?
Oh,
Are you in the middle of buying a copy of Procession?
Yeah.
Because I did a second one, otherwise I'd never been able to get it. Okay, so Claudia, will you, or Jules, whoever chose this, will you please introduce the Cinema Strange song?
you do it.
Okay, what?
Oh,
Yeah, you know the name. So
yes. So this one is the last one is Lindsay's Trachea from Cinema Strange, and we chose this band because we had the chance to took Lucas Lantier to play in Chile. So and that was we became friends with Lucas from that point. So this is why.
Yeah, it was like 2000 back in 2009, right? But by the time that we were producers with Claudio, that's how like we were like introduced like into the scene, right? Before even before like making music and stuff, we wanted to do something related to the scene, and our focus was like lifting bands, right? So mostly like people went to our shows to listen to new bands and some and some consolidated ones as Lucas Lantier, and Lucas was super sweet. He brought us this like magazine, the Death Rock magazine, and we're still in touch. He's one of these people. He's very special. He's great. I remember like in 2018 we went to Mexico the same day that we released our first EP. So that's why I remember. And we went to City of Mexico to see a show by Lucas Lantier, and that was the whole reason for our trip to meet with Lucas there. And it was so sweet that he was like, oh, hey guys, so great to see you again. And we were like after all those years, he hasn't changed a bit. And I wanted to bring this up because I value that a lot. Like two things that I value a lot in the scene are like people who go for their own thing and their own sound, and they're like fearless about that.
Right.
And also like good people. And having those two at the same time is like, wow. So I really admire Lucas Lantier, and that's the reason why we chose this last track of today. Lindsay is great.
Exactly. Wow.
Right. Who doesn't?
Breathing me in, breathing this trachea.
Okay, so I swear I've heard that song. I mean, obviously, I've heard that song, but listening to that, I swear I've heard something in a movie that was heavily influenced by it. But it was not Lydia's Trachea.
I mean, I don't know.
And it's bothering. That's why all of a sudden I was like, where have I heard this before?
Has the Dead Fly Ensemble ever done anything for film?
I don't know. Well, that might be because I know I've seen a Cinema Strange in TV or movies recently. It's real popular to pull from post-punk and death rock and shit right now into slick movies, I guess. Quirky movies or something like that. That's not what it was, though. It got really familiar for a sec there, but like I've seen it in a movie. I'll have to think about it. It could be that it influenced because I went to a couple of freak shows. There was a band called the 999 Eyes that did tours. And so I went to go see them, and maybe there was a little influence in there. I don't know. That song, all of a sudden, I was like, I've heard something almost exactly like this somewhere else. It was a different song. Good song, though. Good song. I like how you think it's going to end like 3 times. I love songs like that.
Yeah.
Like, haha, psych. There's, I don't know, there's just not very much that can compare to Cinema Strange. I mean, they're just out there doing their own thing.
Yeah.
It just has such, I don't know, I've always thought they have such a circus feel to them.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, to me, they like redefined the death rock. I mean, they did something really different. I mean, if you compare them to, I don't know, Community FK or Christian Death or, you know, the early death rock is totally different from that.
Right, but it still fits.
Yes.
Yeah, it's death rock. I mean, and that's the
Right.
The magic of
That's
it.
the magic.
Well, yeah, I think that they are a lot of people's standard. I mean, obviously, oh my God. Christian Death. Oh my God. I was like, wow, my mind just went nowhere. All of a sudden, I had a blank wall. It was like, obviously, Christian Death. I mean, that's kind of a given, but Cinema Strange kind of almost defines their own branch of it.
Yep.
You know, just that different kind of sound. And I love that humor. It's very grisly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like that because it sounds like it's kind of fun, but it also makes you think of a freaky fun house in a horror movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like if it was all moving and marionettes were in your face trying to eat you.
Yeah.
But I feel like that might be what they were going for.
Exactly. I mean, the very name of the band, I think, is a whole statement, right?
Right, very technical. I agree with that. And that just says, again, there's always room for experimentation. So I was pretty glad that you brought some more experimental sounding music because I think one of my favorite things is seeing the 5 songs that our guests are choosing because everybody's so different and everybody comes from such a different place. And this is how you find new stuff. So
Yeah.
hopefully our listeners will find some new stuff.
Nice.
Right. Yeah, and all of these songs are things that one way or another also inspire us as musicians. I mean, not necessarily because we want to sound a certain way, right? But as I was saying, to me, like defining your own sound and going for it is very, very important. It's crucial when you're doing music. So we are trying, like, of course, what we're doing is post-punk, like in the broad spectrum of the word.
Yeah.
But we're trying to come with a sound of our own. Like I don't think at this point that there is like a band that we sound like super alike or something like that. Like
No, I can't. I don't think so.
So that's what we're trying to do, and like with the upcoming works, we want to keep experimenting, learning, and that's the fun of it, right? So
Right. You have to entertain yourself. You have to entertain yourself, especially in a genre that right now most musicians cannot support themselves on music. Your average person in the goth scene cannot support themselves with whatever they're doing in goth. Most of the DJs, that's not all they do. Club owners, hopefully that's all they do, but not always, because I know one in Dallas, they just open up on Fridays and then rent the place out on the weekends sometimes because they have other jobs. So, I mean, you have to entertain yourself. And when you start making music, instead of making it for yourself, when you start making it for your fans or let them start dictating what you make, that's when you've lost your muse. That's when you lose what makes your music special.
Exactly. So yeah, always going for it, and because I think that that's also like the mark when you're like when a band is remembered after, right? Because that happens like in all eras. I mean, it's not something of like right now. Like in the 80s, for instance, you had a lot of bands that sounded like very much alike, and you remember like a couple of them that were like the exceptional in their genres and going for like an evolution of that sound, you know,
Right.
and making their unique sound, and I think that's like it has always been like that, and is in also it's more fun. It's more fun that way.
Right. The unfortunate thing though is sometimes the more well-known, the more widely listened to bands are the ones that get the fame. It doesn't always mean that they're the best bands. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you have something that's so kick-ass, but sometimes it's just dumb luck.
That's the thing. Sometimes you might have, something that is just very good, very creative, but the person who's putting it out has no real interest in promoting it. They just want to put it out, and unfortunately, without that promo, you can't get anywhere.
There's people who are just not good at promo, or there's people who get lifted up because they're in the right place at the right time, and it doesn't have anything to do with who's better. So I think a lot of times those acts that we hear that those big names, they're very good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they suck shit and then all the famous bands are crap. I would never say that. That's ridiculous. Bauhaus is one of my favorite bands of all time. But sometimes we miss some things when you have this wave of all these bands that have a similar sound, and the ones that rise up, sometimes there's a lot of luck to it. There's a lot of work to it. But there's a lot of
definitely. Like you don't get there good sound or no without that.
You don't get there without the work.
Yeah,
exactly. But I was not talking about being famous, by the way. I was talking about being transcendental to your time. Like for instance, many bands that were not famous in the 80s, but they did such sound that I don't know, 40 years later you still you discover them and they are still relevant. And you're like, oh my goodness, what is this, And 40 years later, they're still relevant, and that's what I'm talking about. Not necessarily like being famous at the time, It's like,
or like bands that become relevant like 30 years later, and people discover their music, and they go on Facebook and they see that, and they're like, wait a second, what just happened? Because they weren't known during their time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, that happens too.
Yeah.
Right. That happens too. What am I thinking? Stands up or holds up. That's how we usually say it.
Well, it reaches across decades and still means something to someone after 30, 40 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We're hearing stuff now. If you go back and listen to some of that shit that was written in the 80s, the early 80s, we're living through that still. We're still living through this crap. I was like, okay, when are we going to catch a clue? When are we going to catch a clue?
But as I said right before, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have the access to all that music, right? From Greece or I don't know, from Italy, all that, great bands from there. And
Iceland.
Yeah.
From also, we have the internet, and it's actually, it has kind of plus and minus. Like on the plus side, we get to see people from all over the place. We get to hear music that we would never had a chance of hearing. We get to see things that are obscure. We get to see things that are obscure for our obscure subculture if we want to. But also there has a negative aspect of homogenization, of things getting to be more the same. And so sometimes you have to dig a little bit more to get some of those more, I guess, original sounding bands. So more innovative.
That's another great topic. Let's put an example. She passed away.
Right.
She passed away, right? They came with this, let's say, sound, and now you have a lot of bands that they want to sound like them.
Yes. Yep, that's a big
but
one.
They were authentic.
Oh yeah.
They are authentic. Yeah. She passed away, they are authentic, so they created a new sound, and now you have followers, they try to sound as
Right.
them, you know?
Right. Right.
Or the, I don't know, the Russian post-punk, right? The Russian post-punk, I mean, it's right, it's like this, there's a clear, you know.
There are a few that stand out.
There's
Then it's like
no
this huge
ambiguity about
wave.
something being from like Russia or the Ukraine, like post-punk wise. Like, yeah, that's.
Yeah, you know,
Like
there are
Motorama, right?
a lot of good bands.
Motorama, yeah.
A lot of good bands. I would call them serviceable because they're not different enough. But then there's bands that come out like, as far as Russian post-punk, I am a big fan of Morwan because they're using different influences.
One of
I am
my favorite
in
albums of the
love
whole
with that band.
year.
Went back and bought some of their older catalog because I love it so much because they have a very beautiful Arabic influence in their music. They're from Belarus. But again, they could be lost in that huge wave, like the old new wave, which was a bunch of English people. They can be lost in that big wave of bands that are out there making that same sound.
Right.
Because it's kind of like the Manchester sound or the Seattle sound, or I can't remember any of the other ones. But you know, cities have their sounds, and that's kind of what feels like with the Russian post-punk.
Right.
They have a little bit more bleak a lot of times, which is great, but you know, I think some bands might get lost.
It's funny now that you mentioned that. It's like, for instance, for us, is nothing like that because it's like, it's not that we have a Boston sound. Of course, there is a Boston sound, but we are not part of that at all. But we're not part of the Chilean sound either. Like Chile is so diverse, like with the bands that we have, that I don't know if you could say like there is something like a Chilean sound. Is super diverse. So
We don't have a, like, yeah, I don't know.
yeah, it's like everybody does what they want basically. In Chile.
There's not one sound. You have more experimentation and more diverse sound.
Yeah. Definitely that.
It's weird. Like in Dallas, we have not got a lot of goth. It's going to be post-punk or dark wave. And if you go to see a big, I'd say a big name, a traveling band, because they're not always big names to everybody but me. But you see that one band that might be dark wave or new wave or some, mostly whatever the goth genre. You just go with whatever goth genre. But the other bands supporting them are not goth. They're very experimental frequently. I've seen some that I was like, that strobe light should be giving me a seizure, but I love this so much. I just closed my eyes. It was great. So, I mean, but they put that together with goth bands, with bands that would be traditionally considered goth by most people. And I think it makes a really good, rich show. I like seeing stuff that I'm like, this is fucking weird. What the hell's happening? But anyway, we need to wrap it up because it's very late for y'all. I'm an hour behind.
Yeah, it's 11, but I mean, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I have to feed the cats.
Yeah.
Well, your cats don't get to eat till 11.
They, you know, they are eating now in these days, they are eating like 6 times a day or something like that, because we give them, you know, this fresh food, like canned food, but they are eating a lot.
Your cats have you trained. Oh my God.
Yes.
That being said, I have broth being I'm cooking bone broth, pork broth for pozole, and my dogs have been getting their food with pork broth on it this week.
No. You know, our cats, they are like they're very old, so we have to, you know, take care of them like with very healthy food, you know, and
small portions
through
the day. So.
Right. So
yeah, I don't have to do that yet, but they're old. Their food has to be moistened. I just have broth right now. They get special vitamins on their food. Then they have like half of their food is wet. Yeah, they're.
We have a salmon oil that you add to the food, like on drops, right? To, you know, like for the omega oil and stuff.
I'm just laughing. I have special pain pills for the little one because he's. They have. I spent a lot of time looking for the exact perfect dog food. So they eat like a 5-star food, and yeah, that's. But they're very healthy little dogs because I do that kind of stuff. But they don't have to eat 6 times a day.
Our kitties are definitely living the American dream more than we are. So
one of my dogs is lying on a pillow that is a toast. It looks like a toast with a butter pat, and he's got his head on the butter pat like a little pillow. That's Pumpkin's pillow. It smells like feet and dog butt. Okay, well, let's wrap it up. So thank you so much, Jules and Claudio. This is Pilgrims of Yearning, and we've been talking on Obscura Undead Subculture Shock.
Thank you so much, Michelle and Azzy, for the invitation. It's the second time being here.
Yes, thanks for
our
coming.
pleasure. Our
Right.
pleasure, as always. Hopefully, not the last one. So,
Yeah.
if I can just mention this briefly, like our upcoming shows, we're playing in the 7th version of the Latino Festival Under Latinoamericano,
okay.
Latin America
Yep.
Under Festival.
Is that on Facebook?
Yes, it's on Facebook. It's on December 27th. And then we are going to play on the Arc Fest on January 1st.
Me too.
Yes, you are playing there as well, right? So
Mhm.
yeah,
nice.
yeah. I saw the ad, right? You were on the ad. So yeah, we're playing that Arc Fest on January 1st. It's the whole day basically. Lots of bands and cool DJs. And the next one is Leather and Lace on January 31st. It is like a charity for the LGBTQI. Sorry, my English is not super good at spelling, but the LGBT plus community. Yeah, so those are the 3 upcoming events, and all like as usual with super cool bands and DJs. And the Latin American Festival, I think, is very relevant to the topic we have been talking about, right?
Right. It was pretty good when I saw the first one. That was really good. I had problems connecting, so I kept having to reconnect, but it was a lot of. I discovered a few bands. So
Mhm.
Yeah. You'll discover a lot of bands. We will discover new bands too. So yeah, hopefully you don't miss that one.
yeah, it's good. It's good, and y'all, you can follow Pilgrims of Yearning on Facebook.
Yes.
Bandcamp.Pilgrims of Yearning.
Yes.
Leave
and
the off, otherwise you're in the
Spell
post
it like it
Pilgrims
is on
of Yearning.
screen. Just don't
on
take
Instagram as well. We are on Twitter.
Yeah.
There-
No, just before closing, I just wanted to thank you as well, Michelle, AC. Thank you so much for doing this. I think it's really, really important what you're doing to bring these topics, to bring different cultures. I think it's really important what you're doing. So thank you so much for doing that. And I don't know, it's been 2 hours and a half, and we are so relaxed. It's like talking to friends. So yeah, I mean, we have we had a lot of fun. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll get to meet in person sometime in a year or so.
Or when you
Yeah.
come to Miami.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm selfishly excited. I am sorry you have to move there.
Hey, you're coming
Yeah,
to
we
Miami?
will meet there. We will meet there for sure.
Yeah,
Fucking
and tons of great people there. I think you'll be very welcome, which will be nice.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay. Out.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up. All right.
Thank you.
I'm gonna stop recording as soon as it hits 12:24:30, which is
No.
like right now.